In the heart of a vast and ancient forest, where the branches of towering trees intertwined so thickly that even the midday sun struggled to pierce the canopy, a shepherd used to bring his flock of sheep and goats to graze. This forest was renowned not only for its breathtaking beauty and lush greenery, but also for its eerie silences and the dangerous predators that lurked within its depths. As the day drew to a close, the evening began to cast long, stretching shadows across the forest floor. The sun was slowly sinking behind the distant hills, painting the sky in hues of deep orange and purple. The songs of the daytime birds were fading, replaced by the rustling and stirring of nocturnal creatures waking from their slumber. The shepherd, knowing the dangers of the encroaching night, gathered his flock to begin the journey back to the safety of their home. Among this large flock was a young, playful, and somewhat greedy little goat, while the rest of the animals were naturally herding together, preparing for the trek back. Her eyes caught sight of a newly sprouted bush a short distance away. The leaves on this bush were a vibrant, tender green, looking incredibly soft and appetizing. Her mouth watered at the mere sight of them. She reasoned with herself, thinking that she would only take 5 more minutes to quickly eat those delicious leaves and then run back to join the others. Driven by her appetite, she wandered over to the bush and began to feast. The leaves were even more delicious than she had imagined. She became so completely engrossed in the taste and the act of eating that she lost all track of time. In the mind of the greedy, whether human or animal, the immediate desire often eclipses the awareness of surrounding reality. 5 minutes easily slipped into 10, and 10 minutes stretched into a long, quiet passage of time. She was completely oblivious to the changing atmosphere of the forest. Finally, with her hunger satisfied, she let out a contented sigh and lifted her head. In that single moment, the reality of her situation crashed down upon her. The forest had been swallowed by absolute darkness. The sky above was a blanket of black, pierced only by the cold light of distant stars. She looked around frantically, but the shepherd was nowhere to be seen, and the comforting sounds of her flock were entirely gone. She was entirely alone. Her heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The forest, which had seemed so welcoming and abundant in the daylight, now transformed into a terrifying landscape of nightmares. The gentle swaying of the trees now looked like menacing giants reaching out to grab her. The sound of the wind rustling through the dry leaves sounded like the stealthy footsteps of something creeping up from behind. Panic seized her mind. She thought about her utter lack of protection. Without the shepherd or the flock, she was a walking meal. A wolf, a leopard, or the king of the jungle himself could strike at any moment, and she would not survive the night. Fear is often much more paralyzing than the actual danger itself. It completely destroys the ability to think clearly. Trembling from head to hooves, she began to walk aimlessly. Her profound fear had caused her mouth to go completely dry, and a desperate thirst washed over her. She decided that if she was destined to die in this dark place, she should at least quench her thirst before the end. Summoning every ounce of her remaining courage, she moved toward the faint trickling sound of a nearby river. She approached the water's edge with extreme caution, flinching at every snapped twig and rustling bush. The water glimmered faintly under the starlight. She bowed her head and drank deeply, the cold water providing a momentary relief to her parched throat. However, as she lifted her head, her eyes fell upon something pressed deep into the wet mud along the riverbank. It was a footprint, but not just any footprint. It was a massive, deep, and deeply intimidating paw print. The sheer size and the shape of the impression made it unmistakably clear that it belonged to the absolute ruler of the wilderness, a massive lion. The goat stood completely frozen, staring intently at the mark in the mud. There was a strange, undeniable aura of power radiating from that single, silent footprint. Before her mind could fully process what she was looking at, the bushes a few yards away parted with a sudden rustle. The goat gasped, her breath catching in her throat. Emerging from the undergrowth was a massive, savage wolf. Its eyes glowed with a predatory hunger, and its sharp teeth were bared in a wicked, anticipation-filled grin. The wolf locked eyes with the goat and let out a low chuckle. He spoke with arrogant confidence, declaring that it was his lucky day. He had only come to the river for a drink, but destiny had provided him with a soft, tender meal as well. The wolf began to close the distance between them, stepping slowly and deliberately. In any normal circumstance, a goat in this situation would either faint from pure terror or make a desperate, futile attempt to run. But something miraculous had shifted within this little goat. Staring at that massive paw print had replaced her paralyzing panic with a strange, inexplicable sense of grounding. She did not run. She did not bleed in terror. She stood perfectly still. As the wolf came within striking distance, the goat looked directly into his fierce eyes. With a calm, unwavering voice that surprised even herself, she commanded the wolf to stop. She told him that before he dared to make a meal of her, he needed to look down at the mud just inches from her hooves. The wolf, confused by her sudden display of authority and complete lack of fear, paused and glanced down at the ground. The moment his eyes registered the shape and depth of the lion's paw print, his entire demeanor shattered. The arrogant hunger in his eyes was instantly replaced by an overwhelming primal terror. He began to tremble violently. He stammered, realizing that the print belonged to the king of the forest. He looked back at the goat with newfound dread, assuming that her absolute confidence meant she was under the direct protection and friendship of the lion itself. The goat offered no explanation. She remained completely silent, her posture steady and unbothered. Her silence only confirmed the wolf's worst fears. Without uttering another word, the wolf spun around and bolted into the dark forest as fast as his legs could carry him, not daring to look back even once. This extraordinary encounter breathed a powerful new energy into the goat. She experienced the incredible strength of unwavering faith. For the rest of the night, whenever she heard the approach of smaller predators or felt the creeping shadows of danger, she simply stood by the mark and pointed to it. Without fail, every creature that recognized the symbol of the ultimate authority turned and fled. Her fear had completely evaporated, replaced by an ironclad courage. Then, the profound silence of the night was shattered by a sound that made the very earth tremble. It was a deafening, chest-rattling roar. Birds flew from their branches in terror, and the trees themselves seemed to shake. It was the arrival of the true king. Moments later, stepping into the dim light near the riverbed was a gigantic, majestic lion. His presence commanded absolute awe and terror. The lion immediately noticed the small goat standing by the water. He was genuinely surprised. It was incredibly rare for such a small, defenseless creature to remain completely still in his presence instead of fleeing for its life. Intrigued, the massive beast slowly approached her. The goat gathered every fragment of her willpower. She controlled her breathing, swallowed the instinctual urge to run, and looked directly up into the imposing face of the lion. Using the exact same tone she had used with the wolf, she spoke. She addressed the king of the forest, pointing down at the mud. She explained that she had been stranded there since evening, surrounded by hungry, vicious animals. Yet, she told him, simply by standing next to this single footprint, not a single hair on her body had been harmed. She declared that this majestic mark had been her absolute shield. The lion lowered his massive head and inspected the footprint in the mud. For a moment, there was a heavy, terrifying silence. Then a deep, rumbling laughter erupted from the lion's chest, echoing through the trees. He looked at the brave little goat with a mixture of amusement and deep respect. He revealed the truth to her, explaining that the footprint she had been guarding was none other than his own, left there earlier that evening when he had come for a drink. The lion was deeply moved by the absolute trust this small creature had placed in a mere impression of his presence. He looked at her with a royal authority and made a solemn promise. He told her that because her faith in his footprint was so unshakable that it had conquered all her fears, she was now permanently under his protection. He declared that as long as he ruled that forest, no creature, no matter how strong or hungry, would ever dare to cast a threatening glance in her direction. She was completely safe. That night, the small, once terrified goat rested peacefully in the darkest part of the jungle, guarded by the most powerful force in the land. She had learned the ultimate truth. When you stand in the shadow of true greatness, you are never alone. The deep life lesson. If we reflect deeply upon this story, we can see that our own lives are incredibly similar to the journey of that little goat. We navigate through the dense, confusing, and often frightening forest of this world. We are small, vulnerable, and constantly surrounded by anxieties, pressures, and dangers.